What's up guys, Andre here, and today I'd like to show you the basics of the Quasar framework for Vue. Quasar is a front-end framework that not only has a comprehensive set of components and utilities, but also allows you to quickly build apps in many flavors, including single-page apps, server-side rendered apps, progressive web apps, mobile apps, or desktop apps. So you would just need one code base and you would be able to deploy your app on different platforms. In this video, we'll be taking a look at version 1, which is still in beta at the time of this recording. So if you're watching this in the future, some of this may have changed by then. We'll be taking a look at installation, some of the front-end components available to use, then we'll build out a mini Reddit clone, which I've done several times on my channel in different frameworks. We'll then take a look at deploying the app to a few platforms. Okay, so let's get started. So there are 3 ways to work with Quasar, and the recommended way is to use their CLI, which we'll be doing here. Just refer to this table so you can see the pros and cons of using each. For example, if you're using the Quasar CLI, then you cannot embed it to an existing project. Okay, so let's just take a look at the installation. Let's click this. And you can run this command, which will install the Quasar CLI, which I already have here. Quasar. Okay, so we can run Quasar create to make a new project. And make sure you do this -b dev to get the version 1.0. So let's go ahead and do that. Quasar create, let's call it Quasar example, and it's -b dev. And let's just go through this. This is all fine. Okay, you can change this if you like. Okay, so let's add Vuex and Axios. Okay, and I'll go with standard, and we can just go through this. I'm going to use npm here. Okay, so let's just go into that, and we can run that Quasar dev command to get started. So I'm just going to go into it, and Quasar dev. Okay, so here is the bootstrapped app in the browser. So let's go ahead and open the code up and take a look around. So Quasar, let me just open it up in VS Code. Okay, so here's the folder structure. We have a source file where everything is contained in, and we have this Quasar config file, which is important for adding components, which we'll be doing a lot of in this video. And there's also config options for the different modes. So for example, here's the options for PWAs, and there's also options in here for stuff for Cordova and Electron. Okay, let's take a look at the rest here. So here's the main component called app view. And you can see it's using a router here, and it's all the routers and the routes are in here. There's a main layout called my layout, which everything extends from. Here is the index page, which you see here. That's the index page. So all our pages will go in here. And in boot, there's some stuff for Axios here, which allows you to use it globally. And there's a folder for your components. So as you expect, if you make a change here, for example, Quasar app. So this is the title for this. Everything's set up, and this should automatically reload, and it does. Cool. And if you want to make a change in the actual page, just go to index, and you can see that here's the image. So if I were to put just random text in here, this should work. Cool. Also for CSS, the default is using stylus, which is similar to SASS, the original version of SAS. So you can put your global styles in here, and here are the colors for the default theme. So you can see the primary color is this color, and if you change this as you expect, this should work. So if I change it to green, you'll see this change. There you go. Change it back. Okay, so let's play around some more with some of the components and everything available to us so we can get more familiar with everything. So back into the docs. Let's start with layout. So just like any other front-end framework, there are options for doing layout, and it uses Flexbox under the hood. As you can see, there is an entire intro to Flexbox here. So I highly recommend learning both Flexbox and CSS Grid and just using them directly without using any specific framework's wrapper. With that being said, let's just take a look at some of the options available here in Quasar. So here we go. They use this .call example. So you can click this view source and you can get the source of the examples here. So it's just .row and .call for typical columns. So if we do this, actually I'm going to make a new page. Let's do that here. So I'm going to make a new one called, let's call it play.view. Let's put a template in here. And we can paste that code we just copied. And let's just set up the route here. So we can just make another one of these. And as you can see, the component is the layout, and then the children is the actual page. So this one's called play. And that should work in here. So if we go to /play, that should show that new one. Did I not name that route? Oh, sorry. Yeah. There you go. So you can see those two columns there. Let me put some text in there too. So I can show it more. Say lorem 30. Okay, so there you go. I think there's an attribute called padding just to give it some padding. So if I do this, let's put it here. I think this should give it some padding. Okay, I guess not. I think that has to go on a page component like this. Yeah, so let me wrap this in a page component. Let me just put it here. Yeah, so instead of the wrapping div, we'll just use the queue page. And let's do this. And we don't need this class. And we can use this padding component. And let's change this to close the queue page. And see if some padding. There you go. And the rest of them are pretty straightforward. Let's look over the gutter. So if you want the gutter here to be bigger or smaller, we can use this. And I think we can just do something like this. Q gutter XL. Let's see how this works. So yeah, we just put it on the class. So in this case, it would be the row, I think. Yes, just put it here. And let's see if that gets bigger. And I think it did. Let's make it smaller. Yeah, so that works. Cool. Let's see if extra, is there an extra small? Anyways, you get the idea. Okay, so yeah, you can go through all of this. There's different layouts with headers and footers, but if you're familiar with Flexbox, like I said, this should be pretty straightforward. All right, now let's take a look at some of the Vue components available to us, and there are a lot here, as you see. So let's play around with some of them, and then we'll work on our Reddit app. So let's start with buttons. As you can see, here are some standard buttons, and everything you expect to work like a button works. So I am going to, what's this? Let's just put it in here. Button. Okay. And you can do whatever you do usually with a button, like events, handle click. And we can go down here, make a script section, methods, handle click, and we can just alert. And that should work. Cool. Inputs. So there's a section here for form components, inputs, and let's just grab an outlined input. So it's this one. Let's put it underneath the button. Okay. Oh, so that doesn't show because we have to add it to our config. So if you go back to the docs, so the button is already added there by default, but this one is not. So we have to add Q input to this components array in our config. So if we go to config, there's a components array like I showed you earlier. And as you can see, the button's already there, but there's none for input. So let's add that. And there you go. Cool. And as you expect with inputs, you can add a V model to them and they will save. Let's say my input. What's this complaining about? Oh, there's already a V model. It's called text. Let's change this. My input. And let's make a new data, return my input. Let's make it empty. And when we click it, instead of alerting, let's do this dot my input equals clicked. So this should work. There we go. Cool. Let me make this bigger. Okay, what else? So this page scroller is in the layout section. I'm not sure why, because it's more of a component. So let's take a look at this. So this is just, as you scroll down, this page scroller appears. So let's add this Q page scroller in our config. Save that. And let's add, how do we use it? We just have to add this Q page scroller at the end of the page, but we also want a whole bunch of text. So let's grab this too. So I'm gonna grab that. Let's go back to our code and let's paste it in here. Oh, what did I grab? Okay, so let's put that here. After, what's this? After this. Okay. Let's see, let's make this 50. Okay, and there it is, cool. And it scrolls back up. Awesome. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of components here you can play around. I'm not gonna go through all of them because that would take forever. We'll go through more as we make the Reddit app, but there's also plugins which are like components. So let's take a look at one of these as well. Let's take a look at the loading plugin. So what does this do? I think it's just a full page loading indicator like this. Okay. So let's take a look at this. Let's add this first. So plugins, we need loading. So let's go back to our config. Let's look for plugins and we can add the loading plugin here. Okay. And how do we use this? So let's take a look at this one. What's this one look like? Okay, let's do this one. And we'll just make use of the button we already have. So we just call a show loading method. And let's make a new button actually. Show loading. Let's put it underneath here. Let's put it on top actually. And let's make a show loading method. And let's take a look at what we put in there. So let me just grab this whole thing actually. And as you can see, there's a set timeout here. So let's do that. Okay. I think I have too many braces here. Okay. Let's take a look. Show loading. There we go. Cool. Okay, so let's start our Reddit clone, which I've done several times before on my channel. So if you're not familiar with the Reddit API, if you go to any subreddit, say AWW, if you add .json to the end, you can grab the JSON for that subreddit, and it has all the information about the posts and the images and all that stuff. So with that knowledge, let's go ahead and make an AJAX call using Axios. So I'm going to use the main page here. That's why I made this other route here. And the first thing I want to do is make an Axios call. So let's go to index, and I would like to make that call when the component is created. So we'll use that created hook. And if you go into the docs, down all the way down here, I think it's down here, Quasar CLI. Yeah, so AJAX requests. As you can see in this file, it automatically adds Axios to the Vue prototype. So all you have to do to access Axios is call this Axios. Okay, so let's do that. So this Axios get, let's do reddit.com/r/aw.json, and we have to add this query parameter, raw JSON equals 1. And then we can do .then, grab the response, and it's console log response. And then we can also catch the error and console log the error. So this package also comes with automatic formatting. So if I save, you'll see that it will remove the semicolons, which I don't need. And it would do that if my code was correct. So now if I save it, it should remove the semicolons. There we go, cool. Okay, let's see if this works. So let me open up DevTools. Let me put it on the bottom. Make it bigger. And we're getting CORS errors. That's because we need www here. So there we go. There is our JSON coming back. So we can work with this data. So I'm going to save that to some state here. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to make a piece of data called posts in a second, and response.data.data.children. So just look at the response and you'll see that this is the posts. It's an array of posts. So let's do this, add some data, return object, and say posts is an empty array. Okay. And now let's look for a list component in the docs to make use of that. So back into the components, there is list and list items here. And let's add all of this stuff to our config, qconf, And, oh, it's already there. List, item, selection, label. Is that the same thing? Yeah, so it's already there. Cool. So we don't need that. Okay, so here's how a basic list looks like. Dark background. But here's the one I want. So I'm going to grab all of this. So it's this queue list. Okay. Let's go to our index and let's paste that in. See how that looks. Okay. Scroll down. Okay. So I think these are not the right size because it's using this queue avatar component and we have to import that as well. So let's look for queue avatar. Okay. And I think I just have to import it. Qconf avatar. Save. Okay, there we go. And it's centered because we have this flex center, which I don't want. Cool. So this is what I want. Cool. But I just want one of them because we're going to loop over them. So all of these are just icons. I'm interested in the one that uses an actual image. So this one is the one that uses an image. This one right here. So let's see how that looks. Okay, so we do want this one. And we can get rid of the rest. So I want this a bit bigger. So I think if I change queue avatar, we can just add size equals 70 pixels. See if that's bigger. Okay, so that's a good size. Okay, so now we just want to loop over the array coming back from the Reddit API. So let's do that. So let's do a v4 in here. Let's put it on its own line so it's nice and neat. Okay. I think the formatting might take that out. Okay, no, it doesn't. v4, so let's call it post in posts. And the key is post.data.id. And it doesn't seem to like this formatting. Does that work? I'm sorry. This should be like this. Okay, let's try if this works. There we go. Now we just have to fill in this information. So this is the title. So this is going to be post.data.title. Okay, and the image is going to be post.data.thumbnail. And there we go. There is all the information from the Reddit API. So let's also add a spinner. So right when the page loads, we can see a spinner when the API is loading. So let's add some new state here called loading, and it's true by default. And let's take a look at the spinner component. Spinners. And let's just go with the default. So let's just queue spinner. And we have to add it to the config. So let's go qconf queue spinner. And let's just add it, see if it shows on top. So right here. There it is. So let's just, we can put it here. It's already here. We can do a vif loading. And then this will be velse, the case we want the list to show if it's not loading. Okay. And we just have to change that state once this resolves. So this dot loading is false. And we can also put this for the error case. So there you go. You can see the spinner. Okay, now I want to show a larger sized image as we clicked one of these. So we can make use of routing for this and then just go to a specific route which shows the detail of this post. But for this case, I'm going to make use of another component. And that one is the modal component. But it's called a dialog here in Quasar. So let's look for that. Where is it? Dialog. Okay, so here's how it looks. So just something simple like this, where it just shows the full-size image in here. So we have to add QDialog, and we also have to add this close dialog so we can make use of the close functionality. So components, QDialog, and directives close dialog. Let's grab this. Okay. So how do we use this one? So we just need this QDialog component, and it will show based on this condition. In this case, they're using a V model. We won't be doing that. Okay. So let's just add this somewhere in the template. Let's put it just after the list. And this will show, I'm going to remove this V model. Actually, no, we need to import the card as well because it's making use of card. So let's look for card. Let's add this. Is it added already? No, it's not. Cool. Okay. And see if that shows. Okay, I think we do need the V model, so I'm going to put that back. And let's make it show image dialog, because we actually need some state to determine if the dialog is opened. So show image dialog. Let's just add this to our state. And it's set to true by default. And let's see if this works. So there's the dialog upon page load. And this X button should be here. Okay, it does work. Where's the dialog? So row item center, and there's a utility called justify between, and that should send it to the right. There we go, cool. Okay, so let's make it so the dialog shows when we click one of these. So when we click on one of the items, let's call a click event, and it's called a show image method. Not to be confused with show image dialog. That one is just for state. So let's make a methods here. Oops. Let's call it show image. And that's going to change the state. So this dot show image dialog is true. and let's set it to false by default. Okay, so now as we click one, it should show the dialog. Awesome, that's exactly what we want. But we want the image to be passed through, so let's do that. So I'm going to go up here. Let's pass in the image here. So the image is in post data preview images, the first one .source.url. So yeah, just look through the JSON coming back if you want to know how I got that. And this should be in quotes. And now I'm going to accept that image here. And I'm also going to add another piece of state here called image URL. And this is going to be the image URL for the image that we clicked, for the post that we clicked. So now we just have to update that. So this.image URL equals image. So now in our card over here, so in our modal or our dialog, I'm going to remove this. Let's name this image. And we can just do an image tag here, but I'm going to make use of the image component. So image somewhere here. It's up here actually. No, it's down here. Image. So we have to add that q image in our conf. Is it here already? It is not. Q image. Okay. And we can just use it like this. Yeah, you can totally use just an image tag if you like, but this has some options like adding a spinner color. Okay, so I'm going to put that in here. And the source is going to be just the image URL. And spinner color, let's just make it blue. And I think by default it does max width 100%. So that should be good for mobile. We'll test that in a second too. I'm sorry, this goes in here. This closes this. Yeah, this goes in here, sorry. Okay, let's see if this works. There we go. That is a small image. Okay, so for the dialog, there is an option to make it a full width modal, full width dialog. So in here, let's just add the full width attribute, full width. And now it should be a bigger image. Let's try again. There we go, now it's huge. Awesome. Cool. Try this one. Okay, let's see if it works for mobile. So I'm just going to resize my browser. Okay, looks good here. And there we go, it's full width, so it still looks good on mobile. Okay, so now let's go over how we can deploy our app to different platforms, which in my opinion is the best feature of Quasar. So you have one code base and you can deploy them to different platforms. So by default, the app is a single page app, and the build command is what we've been doing. So for dev, you can see I did Quasar dev. And if you want to build it for production, you can do Quasar build, and that will have everything you need to deploy to a server. So yeah, here, and it goes to a dist spa folder, and you can host that on any static site host, like Netlify or something. Okay, so now let's take a look at server-side rendering. So you can see an overview of what server-side rendering is and some of its benefits: better SEO, faster time to content. And if you used Vue and you've used server-side rendering, you probably used a framework like Nuxt.js, which I have a video on if you're curious. But you can also do it here in Quasar. So before I do that, if we go here to the app we built, if you go to View Source, you'll see that this is what comes back from the server, and then the client renders everything else in our app in this div of QApp. And that's how single page apps work. But if it's server-side rendered, everything should come back from the server. So you'll see that when we run the command for building for server-side rendering. So let's look for that command. Here's another diagram, which you can look over. And here is how you run it for server-side rendering. And there's other options here, which you can look over. You can also set up server-side rendering with progressive web apps if you like. But if we just build it using this command, I'm going to stop this and space that in. And it's going to do whatever it needs. And it's now has a client and a server, so it's building all of that. Okay, so there's our app in the browser, and it still works. Yes, it does. But now if I go to View Source, now you see all of this is rendered on the server, and here's the code coming back from the server. Awesome. So just as easy as that, we have server-side rendering and the same code base. Okay, what's next? Progressive web apps. So again, here's an overview of PWAs. And if you want to set it up for PWA mode, then you can run this command. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's stop this and run this. And there's our app. There's nothing different here because I didn't set anything out for PWA. But one thing I forgot to show you is all of the extra files it needs for PWA or SSR is added to this new folder called source PWA and source SSR. So in here, you'll see the service workers that we need to run PWAs and everything for SSR that we need. So yeah, I plan to do more videos on PWAs with Vue, so look out for that in the future. Okay, what's next? You can close all these. PWA, okay. And we'll take a look at mobile in a second. Let's look at Electron first. So Electron is for making desktop apps, and I have several videos on my channel for Electron as well. So let's see how we can do this. We can just do this command, and it will set everything up we need for Electron. So I'm going to stop this, run this command. And after a few seconds, we have our app as an Electron app, and it still works. Awesome. So if you go into our code, there's a source Electron folder now. And here's the main process that Electron needs to run and is in charge of stuff like window management. So take a look at my other Electron videos if you want to know how this works. But if we want to not show DevTools, we can just set this to false, and then that should restart Electron. And now it starts without DevTools. Cool. And our app still works. Okay, now let's take a look at mobile apps. So, as you can see here, Quasar makes use of Cordova, which is a web view for your app, but it runs on a mobile app. So you have to have Cordova installed. So just do npm install -g Cordova if you don't have it installed. And Yeah, you can set up Android Studio if you like. So yeah, make sure you're familiar with Cordova. I wasn't too familiar with it, but I was actually able to build out an APK and run it on my phone, which I'll show you in a second. So based on if you want to build it for iOS or Android, in my case, I built it for Android because I have an Android phone. Just run this command. For Android, I actually had to install something else. There's a piece of software called Gradle, which is required for Android development. And I had to do brew install Gradle to install it on my computer. So make sure to do that first. And then I ran this command, Quasar build. Oh, it's the same as that. Should just do this. So just do this. And then this will take a while, but it's going to build an APK because I'm going to do for Android. And if you do for iOS, I think it's a .app file. And just watch it says here, where's the APK? Just watch the terminal once it completes and you'll see where Cordova puts it. So let's go ahead and do that. And I want it for Android. And let's just wait. I'll be back when it's done. Okay, so it is done. And you can see here is where the APK is. So let's go into that. So source Cordova, platforms Android app build output, platforms Android app build output APK. So here it is. So as the file name suggests, it is an unsigned APK. So that means you can't run it on your phone until it is signed. So if you go to this page, and if you just follow these instructions here you can generate a key, and then here you can sign it, and then here you can optimize it. I just followed this exactly, and then I was able to sign the APK and run it on my phone, which I will show you right now. So here it is on my phone right here. On the bottom right, you can see Quasar app. Tap that, and here is the app we built. And if you click one, say this one, it still works. Awesome. Cool. So yeah, there's probably a better workflow for this, like getting it running in the simulator. But since Cordova is just a web view, it's okay, I guess, to just use DevTools and just use mobile view and debug your app like this. So there you have it, guys. We've taken a look at the Quasar framework for Vue alongside some of its components and utilities. Obviously, there are a ton of features and components available, but I hope you have an idea of what it can do for you. If you're looking to deploy your app on more than one platform, Quasar is a great choice and easily allows you to do so while maintaining only one code base. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one. Okay, thanks. Bye.